Today on the Self Smarter podcast.
What we hope that we can bring to the party that's a bit different is we've lived it and we're continuing to live in this space. So we're wanting us all to move forward together. And that's what this is about. Hi, we're Danelle and Megan, the hosts of this conversation-centric podcast for leaders seeking to be better every day. Whether you choose to be a leader in the workplace, at home, or in your community, we believe the most effective leaders are equipped to not only be self-starters, but self-smarter.
Hello and welcome to Self Smarter. I'm Megan and this is my friend and co-host Danelle.
Hello, everyone.
So it's that time of year when parents celebrate or cry a lot.
A lot, yeah.
One or the other, maybe both. Mm-hmm. Because kids are going back to school.
Yes. I mean, I think there's a lot of, it just depends.
It depends.
Sometimes there's backflips and parties happening.
Yeah, the variables, like especially like with me, having a teenager going back to school is a good thing because there's no microwaving at 4 a.m. and
Yeah.
I come out of the bedroom in the morning only to find like garbage and used pots and pans. It's so disgusting. That's what it's like having a teenager at home. But for a lot of people, teenagers are moving on.
Yeah. It's chapters closing.
Yeah.
But it's also chapters opening. And we've talked about on this podcast, and I've been trying to help some of my friends with this notion of, I completely ignored.
Yes, you did.
I did.
I remember.
Yes. Mackie going away to college. And I just I was so filled with pride because she was living out one of her dreams and she'd worked so hard. I didn't allow myself to process the emotions at all. Yep. And then COVID hit, she comes back home and I realized what I had done. And I did it different when she went back. She was home for 10 months and then went back. But anyway, I think it's my advice to people that are experiencing that, especially those that might be experiencing, there's just different variations of it. It's right. Like sometimes for some folks, it's empty nest. Yep. That's a whole different extra element. And then for some, it's just one of their children going off to school. For us, it was one kid, empty nest, bam. But I know now in reflection that the self-smarter move for me would to feel all the emotions, right? And I just felt pride. Right. I only allowed pride in the door. I didn't allow anything else.
Like grief.
Grief, yeah. And it's, I think because we're so scared of grief.
Yeah, we are.
And because I think grief is, it's
reserved for certain times.
Reserved for certain times, a very beautiful way to say it, where the ending is certain and forever. Yeah. And that's not the case when our children go to school, but it is a closure. It is a moment of time where things are changing. Mm-hmm. And I can say this, it's easy for me to say it now, but it doesn't matter what you do to prepare for it, it's still going to sting. It's inevitable. But I think what I'm trying to say is if what I did differently the second time she left was I just allowed if I felt like crying, I cried. I didn't try to hold that in. If I felt like I couldn't, if I felt like I needed to call her 3 times a day, I went ahead and called her. And I certainly gave her the permission to do the same. She didn't struggle as much as I did the second time.
Don't, do they?
No. And I don't want anyone, I'd hope for the parents of this generation, there's no more COVIDs that we have to live through, or pandemics, right. I should say. And, but I do encourage people to feel that no matter what chapter is opening or closing, and with children, it's a series of those things. And I think we don't allow ourselves to be okay with that because, again, it is an opening too. I mean, they're going off to college or they're going off to whatever they're doing.
Right.
Trade school, maybe it's the military. Leaving your house. And it's an opportunity to create new experiences. Yeah. And then it's the beginning for a lot of parents and a lot of folks I know that are listening. It's the magical experience of getting to know your adult child.
Right.
That's
totally different.
Totally different. And it's, I think if we can think about it that way, it doesn't erase. Mm-hmm. And if we can sit with all the emotions, I think we can show up for them in a better way too, and show them, illustrate to them how they should be feeling, and so again, it's easy for me to say I have one kid and I've lived through it and I'm on the other side of that. But I do hope that we, especially in this day of age where we are becoming a lot more, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you're investing in yourself because you want to listen to things, read things that make you more emotionally sound. And in some of that, if you're listening to this podcast, it's what we didn't get right, and that's our commitment to you as our listeners and our commitment to ourselves, quite frankly. And we'll be talking about this in 2 years, and you'll have all the context in the world, and you'll still be in the damn fetal position at times. Mm-hmm. I mean, you struggled with telling him goodbye for the 2-week camp.
Horrific.
Yeah, I was right there with you. I watched it, and but I didn't try to tell you to not feel it.
No, you didn't.
Just let me know what needs to happen, what you need, and then I'm going to do things that I think would be beneficial to you.
Right.
Fun activities. Yeah. And we've talked about that in a previous episode. Anyway, good luck to all the college students starting out there. If you're going to trade school, whatever their path is, we wish you all well. And again, I think it's a time for us to hug ourselves with all the emotions that we're feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we jump into what's next at Self Smarter, we're going to hop to this quick advertisement. Well, we've been teasing you for weeks now about what's new and what we've been working on for you, pod listeners. And today I have an update. We've created new tools and coaching opportunities to help you on your leadership journey. If self-improvement is what you're looking for, we can help with that. If team coaching is something you're looking for, hey, we can help with that too. It's all available to you at beselfsmarter.com. And the best news is we're still working on more. We know how big the need for leadership development tools can be for anyone starting or those of you who have been leading for a long time and just want to hone your skills. Danelle and I would be so happy to work with you. Visit beselfsmarter.com and take a look. Welcome back, and thank you for being here with us today, listeners. This is an exciting episode for Danelle and me and the team here at Self Smarter because things are moving and shaking.
They are.
If you're new here, welcome. You found us at a great time because we're just heating things up at our podcast. So just to recap, Dee, I thought we could talk a little bit about just the genesis of the podcast, high level.
Sure.
We started Self Smarter. We kicked off our first episode a year and a half ago. It was February 2022.
Yep.
Because we realized the need for real talk, truth telling.
Yes. Around
the real leadership journey.
Right. And I think there's a lot of here's how you do it. Here's what to do. There's not a lot of, well, at least we could find.
That's right.
A lot of, hey, this is not all easy. And hey, by the way, most of the leadership journey should start with what you know about yourself and then what you're committed to learning about others. So yeah, that's why we started the podcast. I welcome, if you're new, definitely go back and listen to episode 1 and then shop around from there. When you listen to episode 1, or for those that are listening, the reason that we, I guess, assembled the courage to do something completely out of our comfort zone, which is to start a podcast, right, is that we were committed to, we didn't have to go through so many of the struggles that we went through.
Right.
If we would have had, a heads up.
Yes.
Or,
yes.
And again, most of this journey, we've been on this self-awareness, self-knowledge, what we know about ourselves, what we know about others for 8 years. And that started with a 26% approval rating that I received. And that's when my commitment began to, again, was a good leader of the business, not such a great leader of the people. And what I mean by great leader of the people, I supported people. I've always cared about people. What I wasn't was the kind of leader who knew myself so well that I could accelerate the strengths and navigate the things that can derail us. I was also not the kind of leader that was operationalizing values over business performance. I wasn't that kind of a leader. I only knew how to perform with these external measures. And what I decided was that wasn't going to be what drove the culture at this company. And we had a very poor, for lack of a better word, a toxic culture.
Yeah.
And we wanted to change that. And so I committed myself, and then that led to your commitment, and then the rest of the folks who stayed during that time. And we lost some folks.
Yes.
And then we became the type of company that puts people were always first. We're in a service business, but we put what they know about themselves and what they know about others first. So it wasn't like it wasn't toxic because it was a horrible place to be. It was just my communication style wasn't good. There was entitlement issues. I mean, it was a mixture of things. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And it was born out of just not knowing any better and us being buried in
good marketers.
being buried in the business. I don't know what else to say. But any leader of any kind, whether it's in the business, in a community, on a team, in a church, you fill in the blank, when you're not seeing leadership as a decision, not an anointed position, you see it as a decision, you can show up for people in a different way, because that decision ultimately should lead to the commitment to honing skills. And a lot of that's understanding and it's awareness and, it's mixed into a lot of things. And so that's really the genesis of the podcast. And then I know you're going to walk us through kind of what happened next.
Yeah. So we were asked to speak, which was awesome. And we're always happy to speak. We've been asked to help coach people, privately. We've been asked to potentially go through Enneagram assessments with teams and people, definitely internally, but I'm talking about externally coming at us. So isn't that how businesses sort of adapt and grow? Is we realized there was a need, we filled the need with a podcast, and now there's this other need of more developed need of needing more tangible, tactful. Is that right? Tactical.
Yes, tactical.
Wow. Hey, the
it's
words.
bad when I'm with the words.
Tactical implementation of what it is that we're talking about on the podcast. So if there's a need for that, we want to offer that. And that's kind of where we've gotten with Self-Starter.
Yeah, because the last year and a half, we've been asked almost since the beginning, well, can you help us with this? Can you do this for us? And a lot of it, we've been able to suggest what they could do, but then the need just kept presenting itself that, wait a minute, our listeners and the community that we're building not only wants to hear the information that we're sharing and the experiences and not only that, but they are also, y'all are also in search of resources to help you, whether it's to strengthen your team, whether it's, just resources that we kind of have assembled for ourselves through the years.
Yeah.
You want access to. And so we couldn't ignore that calling. No different than I could push back. People have been asking us to do a podcast for, 3 or 4 years. And I've shared this, and I shared it in episode 1 and I've shared it since then as well, is like, I couldn't see myself doing a podcast on marketing.
No.
And so, or any of us.
Right.
And not that that's not needed, but it just would not register with me. And then when it became about the leadership journey that we've been on, and I could see that in a different light, and I could see that how sharing on panels or discussions that I was having, how meaningful that was to people, because we weren't sugarcoating the realities.
That's right.
And so the natural progression that we have been kind of just not ignoring, but not coming to full grips with through the last year and a half was, wait a minute, we can help people even more.
Yeah.
And we can help ourselves in that journey too, but it's definitely, providing what we know to be needed resources.
Absolutely.
And not, and we're trying, and again, part of the hesitation is like, I didn't want us to do Me Too stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be an executive coach. I have great executive coaches around me. And we don't want to be that type of, because we feel like there's more certified, more applicable people. We don't want to be the ultimate Enneagram experts. There are Enneagram experts in that they've written books. The Enneagram's kind of a hard one relative to certification because it's been around for so long. It's hard, but there are programs, but we couldn't see ourselves being the ultimate teacher of of a thing, right? Or a certified. We didn't want to be that. What we want to be, and we want to stay in this vein of, we have applicable knowledge. We have application has brought us the we created tools to support these things that we talk about on this podcast. Now what we want to do is share that.
Right. We're just like our listeners.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just like our listeners.
Exactly.
We're no different. So it's we're leaders teaching other leaders. Like
That's
right. So I'm loving what you're saying about like, there's not really this hierarchy. And I think we've battled with that when thinking about next steps with Self Smarter. Wait a minute. We're not like a psychologist or a trained
or a therapist,
coach or whatever. And it's like, well, we're not doing that.
No.
We're going to help people navigate business challenges, leadership challenges that are real and that we're in the weeds with them on every single day. So if I'm listening to this and I go to selfsmarter.com now, beselfsmarter.com is what it is. But if I go to the podcast website, what used to be, what's going to happen? I'm going to see something totally new.
Absolutely. So what we've done is, and again, we've spent considerable time through the summer trying to identify what we believe are the most necessary and needed resources for leaders. And so keeping that in the lens, we also wanted this stuff to be things that were, gosh, you get through a leadership book, it could take a long time. So, and we've read many of them. Yes. But what we wanted is our tools to be something that can help you now.
Yeah.
And so the things that are there now, which we'll go through that, and the things that will continue to be available to you, our listeners, are things that we believe bring you fuel immediately. And so we've structured our resources and services to be just that. Not this, year-long course that you have to go. You can go find that other places. Right. We wanted ours to be, again, a bit more immediately applicable to you. And then we also want to create a stronger community. Right. So, and I know we're going to talk through some of those, but I wanted our listeners to understand that was the vein for which we spent time when we were in the invention and creation mode of what to provide. And we wanted to be, obviously vulnerable with you to say, we know we are not trained experts in these areas. We're not a therapist. We're not a psychologist, to Meg's point, and we're not certified in particular areas. But what we hope that we can bring to the party that's a bit different is we've lived it and we're continuing to live in this space. So we're wanting us all to move forward together. And that's what this is about. And that's what brings me so much excitement for Self Smarter and our community of listeners, is that we are going to be creating and doing things that hopefully you will take advantage of and that will help you, but then also those that you lead.
Yes.
So that's the intention. So starting off, we're going to walk through some of the things that we have to offer. So first and foremost, we want to offer tools for you to be able to use as leaders.
Yep. Easy tools that you can go download. I think affordability was an important factor in how we were going to approach this. So right now we actually have a tool.
Yes.
But I don't want to scoop that. I want you to talk about the tools in general.
Yeah, I mean, here's what,
why tools?
We created these things along the way, and I would love to tell you that they came out of this beautiful ideation session that we had, but that is not the case. A lot of what we developed came because we tried to use tools, like, say, for instance, and we're going to, the first one that we're going to talk about is the recruiting and onboarding. We tried to use all the tools that corporate of America or that are available on the internet, and I'm talking from you name it. And what we had to live through is a lot of bad interviews, a process that left us feeling
inefficiency, quite frankly.
Exactly. And we did not value the length that an interview process should be. We didn't understand the right types of questions because we really didn't have a framework. We were just asking about the work. We didn't understand how to ask about the person. Now, you got to be really careful about what you ask an individual, because there's boundaries relative to personal information, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about your experience as a person and indicators that can help you understand in the interview process if someone's a culture fit or not.
Right.
And so we wanted these tools to be something that is tried and true, meaning we didn't get it right at first. And so the tools that we're offering you, we've lived through. And we finally settled on, and there's other stuff that's in development that we're still not finished with. But what we know, what we are going to be providing you is where the resources that we've practiced with, you know, we've put in the hours.
And actually have written documentation, like written checklists and written guides for ourselves.
Exactly. And so again, and we want this stuff to not be something that you have to go through.
Yeah.
We want it to be simple. We want, and again, it wasn't simple creating it because we were living through it, but you know, and so, I know that, you know, if you go onto the website right now, listening to this, there's a recruiting and onboarding guide. It's comprehensive in how we've pared it down.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's something you can get through pretty quick, and you can start using it immediately.
Right.
And it's in this particular tool is anchored in the ideal team player. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in that, if you know that your company could be doing a better job with hiring and onboarding, and again, hiring's one thing, onboarding's the other. Mm-hmm. And we've spent a lot of time working on that particular craft of onboarding someone so they are successful from day one. Mm-hmm. And that's setting expectations. That's having things in a particular order of how to make someone. And what you'll do is you'll if you purchase this tool, what we would expect is that you would go through it and then figure out what tweaks you would need to make in order for it to fit your organization, your culture, and particularly probably the position, your type of company, because we are a service company. It might be different if you work in a company where you sell products, or because maybe there's another layer of training that needs to happen or onboarding that needs to happen. We don't expect that it's going to fit exactly your way, but what it will do is the questions that we have lined out, the process for interviewing multiple times in different ways, that is a process that we believe that, I hate to use the word because I don't believe in perfection, but we've honed it instead of perfected it. We've honed it, and we've used it, and we know that it is a process and a way of thinking about the hiring and onboarding that has proven time and time again, once we got to this point, to work for us.
Right. So like ideal people who would, you know, if you're listening to this and maybe you're clicking with this or maybe you're not. So I just want to say, you know, this recruiting and onboarding guide is created for someone who may not be a human resources, quote unquote, professional. It could be someone like myself or Danelle, who we're marketers at the end of the day. Yeah. And if I'm a manager, doesn't matter what tenure, what level. If if I'm hiring for somebody, maybe I'm hiring for an intern. Maybe I'm hiring for a director of marketing, and I'm a VP of marketing or a VP of finance, and I need to hire people under, you know, to work to support the organization, and I don't have HR support at all.
Right.
This is something that you could go purchase. It's $49.
Yes. And I mean, yes,
it's a tool.
And it is. Yes, and so I do think it's built for the small to medium sized company where there may not be, full human resource support, right? Where in some companies only
or
human
even that
resource
you're not happy with.
Exactly.
HR support you're not happy with.
Well, and then HR can only take you so far. So I think that's where the interview questions come in, because if you're part of the process, this tool will help you.
That's right.
Even if the onboarding, like maybe your company has a solid process for that. It's the art of asking questions that help you understand someone in a more efficient manner.
Right.
And so that could fit any side. It could fit any individual who's in the position of bringing someone into their group. Right. That could be a company, again, that could be outside of the workplace, because if you have someone who's joining your team or group, you want to get to know them too. So it's the questions to me are where the power is. Yes. And that has been something we've worked long and hard on. So, and then we obviously throughout this entire process, if there are things that you are interested in, a lot of this has come directly from our listeners. Yeah. We didn't start with what we thought. We started with what people were sharing that they were struggling with or that they wanted more support with. So, and what's coming next is we're working on a summary of the Enneagram. Now, there's plenty of episodes, and there'll be more to come on the Enneagram, but we want there to be a resource. We've read a ton of books. We've listened to a ton of podcasts. We know a lot about the Enneagram, and our goal is to provide a synopsis for you that could help you obtain, or what is it? Integrate quicker.
Yeah.
Because it took us a long time.
Right, it did.
And there's so many different schools of thought with the Enneagram. And so we sifted through a lot of that and vetted the different ideologies around the Enneagram. And what we really want it to be is a tool that you can immediately benefit from. Right. And so that'll be the next thing that we offer. And, again, I think we mentioned in the commercial, but what we want you to do is, if you're interested in what's to come, certainly for free, go to the website and join our Insiders Club, because that group will be the first to learn about tools and resources that we have available. And not that we're not going to talk about them on here, but I would definitely highly invite you to join that free club. We're going to email you every other week and give you some inspiration or talk about things that we're experiencing, and certainly let you know about anything new that we have coming.
Okay, perfect. And so tools and resources are critical for leaders. What else do you think is critical for leaders what are we offering that's helpful?
Beyond the tools and resources, again, those are things that we want you to be able to shop through, look through, purchase when you want. The next level is, a more involved service that we know is needed. And we're going to put it under the coaching umbrella, because that's essentially what it is. Again, we're taking a bit of a different approach. If you want an executive coach, whether that's individuals or in a group, highly recommend. We definitely support that. We want what we have to offer relative to coaching to be a more what we've experienced as leaders, like in a business. These are things, and people who have committed to having a healthier culture, people who we know we can benefit from learning from one another. So we will guide those type of conversations in the particular things that we have to offer. So the first thing that we're offering is a service called Improving Team Dynamics, because we know that when we were cultivating our culture to be different than what it was, what we got right out of the gate was that I committed to knowing myself better, and then I committed to knowing everyone else in the company better. And then that was something that we really dove into. And one of the first tools that we used was the Enneagram. And we've talked about a lot of different assessments, and we use so many different things to understand more about each other, but we know that we can bring value to teams, and we can help you improve your dynamic. We wanted it to be something that was manageable from a time perspective for all of you, affordable, of course. I know coaching is, it comes with a price tag. Believe me, I've written those checks before. So, and we'll continue to. What we want this to be is something that's rooted in knowing yourself and knowing those that you work with, whether the team is a team of 3, 8, 12, 20, it doesn't matter. And the way we've structured this is that we are going to provide 2 assessments, the Enneagram, of course. I know you're not surprised by that, and Working Genius. And Working Genius just helps you understand what brings you energy and what depletes you relative to 6 geniuses.
Right.
And there's a whole episode on that. But what that does is, once we understand that about a particular group, we can then customize conversations with this team in 2 sessions, each an hour and a half. We can customize those conversations to help your team dynamic. So it's the perfect thing to say, for instance, you're going into the fall and you want to end the year strong, or you want to start the year strong. This is a way to foster, even if you have a great group, you just want to continue to illustrate as a company or as a leader that you're committed to improving what people know about themselves, or improving or accelerating what they know about themselves and what they know about each other.
Right.
And then what we'll do is we'll guide a conversation, not necessarily coach, but we'll guide a conversation around communication styles, around what we need to understand in order to keep keep fostering what's working great about the team and identify that so that everyone's fully aware. And then also what we might want to understand about what could trip us up potentially.
That's right.
And then what we'll do is the ending part of this program is we will provide a written assessment of here's the dynamic of your team, and here are things that we discussed. And so, again, we created this we want it to be a custom program for teams of all types and sizes, and we want it to be something that you experience in a short amount of time. It shouldn't last. Again, it's a commitment of 5 hours total, and
not even on them, it's on us, the 5 hours.
Yeah, I mean,
but you reap the benefits.
Exactly. So roughly the first hour will be taking the assessments and getting those results,
right.
And then the 2 1 hour and a half sessions with everyone on the team, including ourselves,
right.
And then we'll provide you a summary,
right.
And then if you want more, we can customize. Phase 2, it doesn't have to end there, but what we want this to be is in some cases, a jump start,
right?
Or in some cases, it's just, let's recenter. Let's make sure we are doing all that we can to fully understand ourselves and others that we work with, so that we can have a better chance or even greater chance at doing really special work together.
I think, and I know you think too, this is going to be a fairly popular.
Oh yeah.
Thing for people to sink their teeth into as leaders, because it is so nimble, it is so affordable, and it can yield really fast results from like you said, end of year or going into next year. It's a smart time to do it. I've actually already it's so weird how things like this happen. I've already had someone ask me about this, and we just pushed go on the website and someone had already asked me about it.
Great.
I know. It's awesome. So,
but I think it's because I think we've definitely, listeners of our podcast, this is the natural progression is let us not just talk to you, but let us work with you, with your team. And we've been getting these requests for a while. And it was very important that we keep the price point very affordable. So, coaching can run upwards. I mean, I don't even want to share what I've.
So much money.
Yeah. But, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And I respect that. Yeah. But what we've wanted to keep this, I mean, it's less than $100 an hour per person. It's around $80 per person. And that is if you can spend, the $3.99 per person on your team to have this greater understanding of themselves and others. I don't know what that value is, but we wanted to keep this. We wanted to keep this at a rate that encouraged, you to invest this. And, and right now we're kind of in a funky time. I mean, inflation's real.
Yeah.
She's a beast.
That's right. And it's hard to ask businesses for money.
Yeah.
Ask for money like this right now. That's why it was so important for us to make it a win-win. It's a win from an outcomes perspective and what you can expect to receive, which is information, communication tactics, and real validation for things that you're struggling with and things that you can improve immediately. And then also pricing that's not going to get you, make you feel awkward.
Right.
About talking to your leader about it. Okay. You were talking about improving team dynamics. I want to talk about another coaching opportunity that we offer, and I'm really excited about this one too. It's called virtual peer group coaching. And this is different than the improving team dynamics, because this is available for, let's say, leaders who are listening. Let's say I've got a listener in New York, I've got a listener in Wisconsin, I've got a listener in Washington State. The listener is in a certain point in their leadership journey, 0 to 4 years in. And so really kind of getting off the ground with their leadership journey, or I've been in the leadership seat for a while and I'm looking to connect with other leaders. Either way, I'm looking to connect and I'm looking to talk through my daily challenges with people. This is what this peer group is going to do. So what we will do is, if you're interested in this, go to the website, check it out. There's more description, probably a way more articulate description than what I'm saying right now. But the goal for me is we're going to get on the phone. We're going to talk, or Zoom. I say phone because I'm an old person, I guess now. We're going to get on Zoom. We're going to get on the screen, and we're going to toss up a problem du jour. Like, what are real things that we're dealing with right now today in terms of leadership challenges?
Okay, so essentially the average session would look like what?
So we're all going to get on the Zoom for about an hour and a half. Okay. It's totally a safe space. I will make sure that you and I will make sure that is, we're respectful of each other. It's privacy. Nothing is shared beyond these phone calls. But let's say we go to the meeting, we go to the Zoom, and someone from Wisconsin, this person who's on this call, wants to talk about a cultural issue they're dealing with. Maybe they have a toxic employee and they're really concerned about how to handle that. And they just want to talk about it. Well, odds are someone else in this virtual peer group also has something like that they want to talk about.
Yeah.
It's going to help everyone on the Zoom because everyone's going through very similar challenges, but for whatever reason, we have a hard time talking about it. So back to the genesis of this podcast, we did this so that you know, listeners, that we see you and we understand you because we are walking in your literal shoes. So let's just get real about that. So this virtual peer group is going to give people an opportunity to share and solve.
Okay.
Share and solve.
Back to our commitment. We want all of our coaching options to be affordable. And so the virtual peer group coaching is $59 per session.
Such a deal.
But that's for groups. That's groups for leaders who are just starting out to 4 years. So we have different, I guess, experience groups that we want. We want the experience to be where folks are applicable. Yeah, I think that's a great way to say it. And then, so for those that are just starting out up to 4 years, that's $59 per session. And then the next group is 5+ years. You've had 5+ years in the leadership seat and you're looking to further and to really be able to develop your mindset around not feeling alone. So there's other, and that's why we're going to discuss topics like this, and to really understand that how other people are dealing with some of these things that may be a challenge for you, or things that you might want to share for someone else who's challenging.
That's right.
And that's how we really grow and learn the most. And I think that's what the vision for the peer-to-peer coaching was, that we know that we learned and grew from one another.
Yes.
Almost more so than the individual study. Now, the individual study certainly helped us relative to self-knowledge, self-awareness, and what we learned about how everyone was wired.
Right.
So that's, again, going back to the improving team dynamics.
Right.
This is for people who are decided to become a leader.
Yes.
And that we are owning that inevitably there are wins and challenges that come along with that decision.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is create a community that supports that. So by doing this, you pay monthly on this particular peer-to-peer coaching, and it's an affordable way. We wanted it to remain affordable. We wanted to remain something that you looked forward to because it wasn't breaking your bank account.
That's right.
And you were having a chance to, of course, listening to podcasts, reading is a one-way interaction. We wanted this to be a two-way interaction relative to leadership experience.
Right.
So we're trying to give you a heightened experience as a leader.
Yeah, like if you're doing the math right now and you're thinking about, man, I could probably use some of that peer-to-peer coaching. Great. Let's say, even now these days you can become a part of a gym, like a fitness gym. If you're worried about your physical health, what about your business health? What about your professional health? So if you're, for under $50 a month, if you could do this for under $100 a month, or even under $50 a month, if you're just starting out, that's less than $100 a month that you're applying both to your physical health and well-being in the future and your professional development future and well-being. It's very, very similar. I hope people frame it that way. And that's why we priced it that way.
Yeah.
So that it would be affordable. So let's say we were listeners and not co-hosts of the Self Smarter podcast. And let's just say I'm listening to this episode and I'm super excited and I want to talk to my leader or quote unquote boss about this opportunity to know, how do you suggest people do this to get a yes?
Positioning the ask.
Yeah. So some of this, like for me, if I were to come to you and say, Danelle, I've just heard about this awesome coaching opportunity. What I would like to do is, first of all, the peer-to-peer is month to month. So I can come and go as I please. We meet once a month and it's, $80, $79 a month. I'm over 5 years into my leadership journey. Yep. What if I split it with you 50-50? Would you support me in my leadership growth if I cover 50% of it?
Yeah, I think you just answered the question. Yeah. I think it's, we can't determine that for everyone based on their, and I would assume that some people are in a seat where they can make this decision
immediately
to, pay for the group, improving team dynamics, or to the personal investment of peer-to-peer. You can make that decision, whether that's a company expense or personal. But if you're the person who needs to ask, there's an ask involved, whatever scenario that looks like. I do like the idea of, I want to make this investment in myself. I want to be around other leaders, and not just at a conference where it's like really quick and you sit around a round table and then you go back home.
Well, and it's thousands of dollars.
Yeah, well, that's beside the point. But because there's other things you gain when you go to a conference. I want to be fair about that. It's expensive. I want to be fair about that. But you want to be involved where you're like, okay, I'm going to be committed to this for 6 months, and I'm going to get to know the folks in this group, and we're going to be able to talk through, and that will advance, my leadership skills and understanding and empathy, quite frankly. I do like the idea of going to someone and saying, I'd like to personally pay half if you would reimburse me for the other half. Or, it can be, I believe this is going to benefit our company. So it could easily be a company expense. For some of those that are in the 0 to 4 years, if you're just starting out, I don't know. I don't think that $60 in a month is, I know sometimes when we're starting out, we don't have a lot of disposable income, but I do think it's an investment. It's the cost of 3 books. So, and you're getting to experience it with other people. And so I think it's just a matter of you reconciling with yourself. Is this an expense that you want to incur? Because the sessions will take place during the day. So you do need to share with your companies.
Yes.
If you work in that kind of environment, that you're going to make this investment. But I think you have to decide, do I want to make it independently? Because it's not just the cost of the session, but it's the time. And we've kept the time. It's an hour and a half a month. And it's, for some of you, it'll probably hit over a lunch hour, or you can move your day around those times. But, just think, you have to know what your situation is, and you have to think about it being a value. What are you hoping to gain from it?
That's right.
And we have a whole episode on the art of asking for an exception. This is the art of asking for an investment. And so, I think if you think of the outcome first and say, I want to invest in this particular thing, whatever it may be, whichever one you're choosing, the peer-to-peer coaching or the improving team dynamics, always lead with what you know the outcome will be. And all of that's on the website. We've set the intentions for what we expect the outcome to be for these particular services. So hopefully that will help you. And then all else fails, you want someone to talk to, just shoot us a note.
Yeah.
We've helped plenty of people learn how to ask, whether it's to go to a conference or to how to position this to leaders I should call it decision makers, right? So that's what I would advise. I know that's probably long-winded. So if you're still with us.
Yeah, that's great. And if you're still with us, thank you for listening, because you probably are interested in some of this, and we certainly appreciate that. We are too. Mm-hmm. So Danelle, just before we transition to music moment, I just thought it would be helpful if you just reminded everyone, what do you know for sure about this evolution of Self Smarter and our ability to guide leaders?
The evolution is helpful first. Yeah. And in that helpfulness is for all of us to become better every day. Those are our 2 core values. And so we're living out our values, and we want to be that example always. And we want to use that as a compass for ourselves when we get off. We have a bright idea that doesn't necessarily fit those things. And so the podcast is our commitment to you on being helpful first. Okay, you can listen to it anytime you want. We're committed. We're making a significant investment to produce this in a quality way.
Right.
And the other is, we want to continue that commitment for all of us becoming better every day by creating tools and resources that help us do just that, because we will learn and we will also grow and become better when we work with teams on improving their dynamics. That's going to be an experience for us as well. We will learn and grow from the peer-to-peer coaching groups. So I could be okay with evolving our podcast into a leadership destination for learning and experiencing. It was okay for me to be okay, yeah, there's another level that we can take this. And so I also think that, we know that us, by evolving this, again, we wanted to keep centered around it being affordable, not cheap. Nothing we do is cheap. Look how we produce this podcast. Go look on social if you haven't yet. We're not cutting corners here. And we didn't want to also, because we don't want to compete with other things that are out there that we've purchased ourselves.
Right.
And we will continue in some cases. We wanted it to be something that was affordable in the sense of, damn, the value. What I'm getting out of that for that price tag is of significant value. They're not just throwing stuff out there and throwing a price on it. They've really thought about how to make this palatable and exciting, because it's something that we know you want and that we would benefit from it too. And it's something I can afford, or that my company would be willing to invest in all of us to do these things. So, and then I also think what I know for sure about this journey that we're on is that we're not going to stop. So what you see available on the website today is certainly not the end.
Right.
It's our intention. We have a pipeline of things that we're developing, especially relative to the tools that will be available to you. And then we'll be putting stuff up too as we move through this, that we'll have some free resources as well, no different than the podcast. So we're excited about it. It is daunting in a sense. Anytime you evolve something from what it's been and then you've experienced success, which we have, but to move it forward, it's a vulnerable position for us to be in. And we're fully expecting that awfulness of the crickets. So if nothing else, please go to the website, our dear listeners, and look at what we're offering and what we have. And please give us your thoughts.
Yeah.
If there's barriers to you purchasing something, whether it's the full understanding or the price, please know we're open. Our ears are open.
Totally.
And we have vetted this through leaders that we know are seeking this, and made sure that this was positioned in a way that they could see themselves making this investment. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback. But we don't want it to stop there. So that's one thing I know for sure, is we're still eager to hear what you think.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And to your point, if you go to the website and you see a tool that's not there,
yep.
I mean, we're all ears.
And it could be something we're developing, or it could be something we haven't thought of that we could absolutely do that.
Yeah, we're happy to do that. So we are going to give you things that have been helpful for us along our journey, and we'd love to know if there are things that we just haven't thought of yet, or that we haven't gotten to yet, to solve that problem. So please let us know. We would love to hear more from you.
And if you've made it this far in our episode, thank you, and just really appreciate the continued support for what we're doing. It's not always easy to admit that we weren't the greatest leaders, or that we still can struggle.
Yeah. But
I believe that is the next era of leadership. It's not about perfection. It's not about performance, performative actions. It's real. It's people. We can't expect that this decision that you've made as a leader to be just a walk in the park,
right.
And so while we do talk about a lot of things that we've experienced that are extremely positive, because the outcome is extremely positive when you show up for people. That doesn't mean the process of showing up for people is always easy. And we want to take the loneliness out of that, or what is wrong with me,
right,
out of it. Because I can guarantee there's nothing I've ever experienced as a leader that was, once I started to open up about it, that was just about me.
I know.
Now, not being self-aware and self-knowledgeable, that still wasn't just about me. There's plenty of leaders out there that haven't done that work.
Right.
And so I still wasn't alone. It just felt like I was isolated.
Right.
And so we don't want that to be the case. We don't want you to not struggle. You're going to struggle.
Yeah.
You're going to have, but we also want to create opportunities for you to struggle less.
Honestly, the struggling is caring.
It is.
If I'm struggling, that means I actually care.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not struggling and I just think I'm great and perfect at everything, then I'm steamrolling more than likely. So if you're listening to this, you're already on the struggle bus.
Yes.
I'm fairly certain of it.
Right.
So what do you need? What are you willing to do for yourself? You know, let's D and I would love to help you on
Absolutely.
that journey.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get into music.
Okay.
I just thought this would be interesting because we talk so much about Taylor Swift and we've never talked about these gentlemen, but the Jonas Brothers, who are also local natives to Dallas.
They are.
They are on a big tour.
They are.
Yes. They just kicked off their big grand tour. I just think they're darling.
Well, they're grown-ass men.
I know, but they're darling. They're so significantly younger than me. And married and stuff. They're like, you know, but I mean, like, they're darling. They're just, I
just don't know if that's the look they're going for. They've made their money off of being darling boy band.
True.
Their early success came from that.
I can't unsee that.
Okay, that's fair. Your mom. Okay.
I can't unsee the boy band. But you're right. They are all grown up. They are artists in their own, like, very well accomplished artists.
Oh gosh, they're incredible.
Incredible. And I was watching this. I think it was on the Today Show, but they were interviewing them and how they have curated this concert experience.
Ooh.
So imagine this. Imagine you're the Jonas Brothers going on tour with the Eras Tour simultaneously. It's almost like
Eras meaning Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift,
right.
Yeah. Imagine, so here I am, you know, like from a marketing perspective, like I need to build up this publicity and I have all these wonderful, you're looking at me like, what are you about to say?
Yeah.
But I mean, you can either look at it glass half full or glass half empty. I think they're looking at it as glass half full. People are back at concerts. Look at what Taylor Swift's doing. Let's go, rock and roll. And they've curated this experience to deliver on that. Plus Beyonce's on tour and everybody's talking about it. So now's a good time to be on tour.
Yeah.
That's my point. And I'm just so happy for them. I did hear and read that Nick fell through a hole on the stage one night.
Oh,
recently.
Is he okay?
I think he's okay. Luckily he's okay. But it got me thinking, you know, from our generation, there were always a lot of holes on stages, like Michael Jackson specifically, Janet. You know, now they went through, like, concerts went through this evolution of where people would fly out of the stage, and then they evolved to people flying, you like Pink, flying around over the audience, right? And so it sounds like the holes are back.
Okay.
And Nick Jonas fell through one.
Well, I think, okay. I don't know that the whole, like, I don't know that I see it that way, but I know that there's just... live performance is just it's a lot and there's going to be shit that happens. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. And so, you know,
I know, but I don't want to be there when it does.
Well,
I would feel bad because I worry about it. Like when you and I went to see Justin Timberlake, do you remember that big, like, fireman's ladder that went out across the audience? Well, I was like, well, I hope that thing doesn't break, or, well, I hope he doesn't slip-a-roo.
Right. Exactly.
It's a little slippy slip.
Yeah.
And Tina Turner used to do that.
Yes, I know.
She'd dangle.
She would.
Over the...
She would. What? I mean, it's performance. It can happen at any time.
I know. Performing arts are kind of freaky. Anyway, I was just thinking if I were on a stage, like, you'd be fine. You'd be up there celebrating and entertaining. But if I were on a stage, I'd be the one falling through the holes.
Okay.
Okay. That was the whole point.
Okay. Well, our stage, hopefully.
I have weird luck like that.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck to the Jonas Brothers. Good luck. Thank you for all the artists out there that are continuing the live performance. I know we definitely have some major things. I mean, Metallica's been in Dallas all weekend.
God,
you know,
so fun.
And to think about, I don't know how old they are. So those aren't little darling boys, you know, men, boys. But I love that we have performance back, and I love as a culture that that's still something that people care deeply about, because, you know, I'm sure
live
for a
music.
long time, you know, it was just so compromised. And I think we're about to, and I know we're going to get into this in another episode, but we're about to have an interesting phenomenon happen with this writer's strike. I mean, we're fine now because we have so much going on. But there's eventually going to be a time where maybe live music is because we're tired of seeing reruns. So anyway, I think we should.
Just in time for my son to get into the music industry. Yay.
Well, writer's strike is relative to television.
I know.
But
just your point is,
my point is live performance.
Gravitate.
I think so. I think that's going to be one of the positive outcomes on that side.
Right.
So anyway,
the writers love that, but we're going to talk about that in another episode.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it. We are going to have some links in the show notes. It's just not going to be stats and stuff. It's going to be links to what we've been talking about here on the podcast today. Please tell a friend about the podcast, especially today's. If you're talking to people who are in leadership roles and struggling, gosh, let us help them.
Absolutely.
We can. And so we would love to. And until next week, we send you into the week with grateful hearts.
Goodbye, everyone. As always, you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Self Smarter Podcasts. You can also leave a rating or review if you enjoyed what you heard today. Not only does this mean so much to us, but it also helps other leaders and future leaders find our community. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us in becoming self-smarter. This podcast is produced by Snacks Media, and music is from a free platform. Well, that is until Brandy Carlisle reaches out to us to write the original score for our podcast. Friends, have a great rest of your day.